And good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Paul Trani here, hanging out, fixing my hair because I see myself on camera. Good to have you here, Jose Gonzalez, Ahmed, Chris Davis, Eric, Paul Alvarez in the house, and it is Inktober. Cheers to that, huh? Oh, that's strong. That almost tastes like poison. It tastes poisonous, which happens to be the theme for today for Inktober. But we're going to focus on Illustrator. This is getting started in Illustrator, tying it into Inktober, which I'm going to describe. And basically, we have a full week happening this week. So hopefully the music is okay in the background. Kind of hard to tell because... So let me know if the music is good, and we'll dive into this. Oliver, good to see you from Canada. Just got back from Canada last week. I was in Montreal, which was super cool. So we'll kind of dive into this. Like I mentioned, it is a full week, so you can see from the schedule that it's all about illustration this week. So Dave Arcade, and I can click through all of their fantastic portfolios as well. But in general, it's fantastic. It is fantastic what's happening with David Arcade. Dave Arcade with Christine Arth. She's going to be in the house. Alice Lee's the other host. Tracy Ching. You can see all of these people on the schedule tab. Aldo Crusher, Dave Arcade as well later on. And I should just double check that. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fantastic week. All week long, and then I'm going to dive into what I'm going to show and create today. So you can see it right here. All right, cool. Yes, Jose said it best. Illustration all week long. Super fun. So this is kind of what I'm working on since the theme is basically poisonous. So if you do, just go out, and I was just doing some research on poison ivy because that's the character I'm making. But essentially, Inktober 2018, day one, we can just kind of review this schedule just for fun. Feel free to get involved. But nonetheless, you can see all it is you have these fancy prompts, and you can see today is all about poisonous. Tranquil, switching it up tomorrow. So the idea is you'd create an illustration today for 31 days. And that's the plan for Inktober. If you look at the official rules and all that fun stuff, or the FAQ, so this is really all you have to do, the rules and prompts. Just go ahead and make a drawing in ink. You can do it in pencil, post it with this hashtag. And it does say ink. It says how to ink, but the FAQ basically talks about can you work digitally? Of course you can work digitally. And that's what I'm going to be doing today, starting sort of pencil and paper, and then bringing that into Illustrator, and then showing you how to get started in Illustrator and get to this point, right? So this is what we're working on, and it's kind of like what I'm working on right now is just like creating my poison ivy character, as you can see here. So again, just I think it's kind of cool. I actually was working on these various brushes as well. So if I go here to the brushes, you can see all these cool little brushes that I made for our poison ivy character, and that's the idea. So again, creating cool stuff like this, super fun, all in Illustrator. Hopefully that works for you. Still working on my character. You're going to see her in other places as well, but this is sort of updated poison ivy, and where she started is actually on paper. So see her right over here, kind of switch gears. Yeah, and Eric, I don't know. What is it you're talking about, paying for selling a house and car to get to Adobe Max? Where do you live, Mars? I would love to give you a ticket if they gave me tickets, but they don't give me anything. All right, Eric Sue says he does no illustration, and I'd say, hey, you're the perfect candidate for this, because that's what Inktober is all about, just having fun and creating. And I'm going to have to just kind of show this to you, maybe in a little bit different way in general, just to kind of give you a glimpse into kind of what I'm drawing, and I'm just showing you on my phone right here. So I can show you some of the other characters and other things, but this is kind of where it initially started. And there were other versions. I kind of refined her. You know, the other poses weren't as cool. She did have a cape at one time. That wasn't going to work, right? I figured she needed some, like, samurai swords to kind of, like, yes, she can create all these vines and everything. And I just thought, okay, well, maybe she needs some swords to cut up stuff. I don't know. But you can see it right here. Of course, you could take a photo like that. That's easy enough. I can actually jump into... this is probably the easiest thing you can do in your... oh, Paul, you're too kind to me. No, I am just a man... Yeah, I graduated with an illustration degree. I have a 4-year illustration degree, just so you know. But thank you. It's very kind of you. So here I am in, by the way, Adobe Capture. So this might be one way to consider capturing content. And notice how I'm in the shapes area, so I can access the camera right here, okay? And I can point to her, and I can maybe capture this as a vector, just to see how she comes out. Super clean. I'm just literally using, what do I have, a 6H pencil, and then I actually have a mechanical pencil that I'll even use just because honestly it's easier when you're traveling. So here she is, and from here I can add or subtract. So I can actually, let's get rid of that. And what I want to do is I want to smooth this out. So smoothing's turned off. I'm going to turn smoothing on, and you'll see what happens. It's really going to start making these lines, I don't know, a little bit clearer, but this is one of those things that you need to play with. So yes, super cool. Paco says he loves him some Adobe Capture. I couldn't agree with you more, because even this illustration is horrible. Like, it's not that good, but even the smoothing here, I think it makes it look pretty good. I'll click done. Technically, it's getting saved to this Altura library. That's cool with me. And we can go sort of beyond that as well. We have type, colors, materials, patterns. Brushes is also fun. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and just show you brushes, actually. I'm not even shifting gears. I'm in the same app. What am I talking about? And these are really rough, but if I made this more complex, I'd be doing you a disservice because it doesn't need to be complex. So I can sort of add and remove. I'm sliding this to the right, and now I'm just going to go ahead and capture this little branch and then start to define the head, the tail, the body, right? Which is what I've done here. Let's rotate that into place. I should have, kind of drawn a little flower on the end. Maybe we'll do that right now. A little flower real fast. Just to show you that there might be a head and a tail, and then you can really unleash the power of Adobe Capture this way. But this is just one way for Inktober to do something kind of cool. Okay, there are other ways, and I want to kind of talk about those. There's so many different ways to draw and create. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to capture this one more time, because you can see I've just drawn sort of a head and a tail here. I've dragged this clear to the end. It's just going to capture these vector points. Taking that snapshot, trimming this up, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to ignore chat. If you're joining me on YouTube, hop over to behance.net/live. But in general, since this is a learning stream, we usually like to keep it more learning related and just kind of focus on this as a recording. So you can see it's actually doing it. It actually provides a head and a tail there, okay? So there is my brush. So you can go into presets, so we can adjust the size of it. You can see obviously how it's adjusting the size. And this is the repeating, whether you want to mirror it, which I could do. This tends to add a little bit more variety, or you can say, hey, you know what, just stretch it. But these are the different options. And right now, again, I'm just making a... Let's actually change this to black and white, since that's all it is. But you get... In terms of velocity and size and flow, this is going to depend on whether you're going to be using this brush for like an Apple Pencil or some sort of pressure sensitive stylus, a Wacom, what have you. Okay, so looks good to me. Just click done. That gets saved to our same folder, and then that's all squared away. So we could always use that, and you can see how it's being applied. Oh, Jan Eric, you are so funny. Saying he doesn't have an inkling of how to do this. You're hilarious. Okay, so that's getting synced to my Creative Cloud. We will see it right over here as I click over to libraries. Ultra, you can see those graphics, a shape, and then we'll see the brush right in here. And we'll talk about why that's not showing up. Because this is why. And I wanted to point this out. We're making brushes. And you can hopefully see that that's actually grayed out. Now I'm going to switch back to my screen. You can see right over here. For this brush, and let me just close that. For this brush, you can see that it says right here, it says Adobe Sketch. Right, so that's actually what I made. So I can use that in Adobe Sketch. But I can change that because I actually didn't want that. So I'm going to edit this brush. And let's go into styles. You can see right up here, it's this little icon right here. It says that it's sketch. And here's my other sketch brushes. So you have Photoshop CC and Illustrator brushes. So I want it to be an Illustrator brush. Click right down there, click save, and now it will be available in Illustrator. To be honest with you, your most flexibility is going to come from you making a Adobe Sketch brush, because those can be in color and beautiful and brilliant. But the cool thing is, since this is getting started in Illustrator, I'm going to show you how to do this all in Illustrator. You don't even need a pencil. All right. Okay, so Eric, yeah, it sounds like when you draw, you digitally might not be your thing. Well, that's okay, man. It's all good. All right. Dorena, did you draw something for Poisonous? Again, this is Poisonous. I can actually just I kind of want to change this text here to say that. But let's kind of step back. In fact, I'll kind of turn off most of these layers, but keep one of them on. Kind of do something like that. Maybe we'll keep some of these buildings just for fun. So we do have some context for our character. She's going to be on this layer right here. For Illustrator, depends on kind of just how you like to work, right? So you might have all these various layers. A lot of people, well, I should say some people work just everything on one layer and send things to the front and back. But each layer contains a number of graphics. So if I twirl down this building, as you can see, there's this group. Okay, I can twirl this down. You can see all these crazy, crazy graphics right in here. So let's try to zoom that out. Crazy graphics, right? So that's what happens. You can have these sub layers of graphics. I typically work on one layer, and we're just going to call it Heroine. And I can take this shape that I captured with Adobe Capture and drop it in, right? You can see right away that it actually is a vector, okay? And let me just change the color here. This is another thing that happens in Illustrator, is when you're working on a layer, all of your lines are going to have a certain color. In this case, it's just a brown. You can always change that just by double clicking on the layer. This is going to make it easier for everybody to see. So I can change it to a medium blue, clicking OK. And now when I select my character, you can hopefully see that blue. Maybe this sky and everything is kind of getting distracting. It's kind of hard to tell. I want it to be a nice background for you, but I want to make sure you can see those lines, okay? But since we're manipulating vectors, like I'm going to do in a second, I can select these different points. And Illustrator, if you go to Preferences, down to Selection and Anchor Display, you can actually change the size of these handles. Okay, so this is something new. I kind of slide it over a little bit. If I slide it over and make it max, all these little anchor points, these little dots get much bigger. It might be easier to select. This is good, especially if you're working on, say, a Windows 10 machine or something that is touch enabled. right? In this case, I have all these lines that I can add and remove. So I can ask you, like, what are the two most used tools in Illustrator? Guess what? It's going to be the selection tool. The second most used tool is actually the type tool, okay, which is kind of interesting. But here I just use the select tool. And you'd try to select this, and you'd be like, oh, it's selecting everything, in which case you want to switch to the sub or direct selection tool, or otherwise known as the white arrow. Yeah, so selecting that white arrow, now I can select, say, this piece right here and start to pull this stuff out. Pull and push. I really just need to delete all this because I don't want her to have a flame. Okay, I'm just going to hit delete. But I'm going to start drawing, and I'm going to draw like vines coming out of her hands. Okay, so this is just simple getting started in Illustrator, kind of what you need to know. Off to the side, we can see a number of tools. Typically, guess what? The pen tool is the one that everybody likes to master. So, Eric, how good are you at the using the pen tool? You mentioned you can draw freehand, lo-fi really easily, but maybe the pen tool, honestly, is, just takes some getting used to. So yeah. Let's dive into this, Ashi. We're going to dive into the pen tool. I'm just going to make some cool vines kind of coming out of her fingers. Click. If I do a click and drag, I'm going to get that curve. I click again, click and drag. I'm just making this cool line. You get this slice through it. Why? Well, you probably know why. Right over here. I would have to check out my color and my fill. So, my fill, the color of my fill, and then the stroke. So it's the fill and the stroke right over here. These are the situations right here that are happening. I could flip these too because I'm like, no, I want to draw a line. So let's change this stroke to black and change this to nothing. So I'd click right here. Actually, I could probably zoom in on this screen. There we go. That's much better. I can click right here. Bop. And then it changes. Bop, bop. We have fill, stroke, just like that. You get the idea. And then we can continue to draw. Okay. For you pro users out there, say if you put down a point, you're like, oh, I didn't want it there. You can hold on the space bar. I haven't let up on my mouse yet. Well, I can pick up that last point even before I let up on my mouse and reposition it and go on down the line like that. So I'll usually draw, and now I want to manipulate this line. When I draw, I'll just hit escape, right? I can just hit escape, and that kind of commits the line. But then to manipulate these individual points, you could actually do this a number of ways, but I'm just going to use my direct selection tool because that's typically what you do. Is use a direct selection tool and manipulate these little Bezier points, or Bezier as they're known. I can start to manipulate this and have it expand out even further, right? Another thing you can do, which might make it even easier, because when you select these Bezier points, you're like, oh, how do I adjust this? I got to move this side and then move this one. It's kind of awkward. Or if you roll over the line, what you see right here, hopefully you could see that, this little line is the curvature tool. I could be wrong. I got to double check the name. Let me check. Because it happens to be right over here. In fact, wait for it. Smooth tool. No. Anyways, why can I not remember the name of this tool? Either way, I think it should be called the curvature tool. Nonetheless, let's just go with that. As you roll over it, you can just grab this line and just kind of move it and manipulate it that way. So that's probably going to be easier for you to work with potentially, right? You just want to make these nice smooth curves. You don't have to worry about moving or navigating either one of these Bezier points at all, right? So we've talked about selection. We have the sub-selection tool, pen tool. If I select the pen tool and hold it down, you can see we get these additional options right over here, okay? Add anchor point, delete anchor point. So you're going to be using these all the time, Jan Eric. You know what's up. So plus and minus, and then P for pen. So pen, plus, minus, add, remove. That's what you're going to do. Most important one is the anchor point tool. This anchor point tool is the I'd say third most used tool. to manipulate those strokes. So I'll select that anchor point tool, because what if I want this to be a sharp line versus a curved line? I can click on it, sharp corner, and then curve it out and make it equal. So you're going to be using this a lot. And the great thing about this anchor point tool is I can grab this and I can have this come at an entirely different angle there as well. So that's what I'm doing right now, and everything seems to be working out okay. Typically you'll do Shift C, and anybody working in Illustrator is going to be using these different type of lines. But here's one done with pen tool. I'm going to kind of take it to the next level after I adjust this point a little bit to make it a little smoother, like that. Right, I'm going to use the pencil. I actually use the pencil a lot. Okay, so typically what I'll do is I'll just double click on this pencil tool, all right, and then I'll play with these pencil tool options. So I'll take it from maybe the middle, but I'll take it away from accurate down to smooth. Give me some smooth lines, okay? So that's what I want. Click OK, and now I can draw. Actually, let me just show you the difference. Double click. I'll show you the difference between accurate. Here's accurate. Look at that, how many points that makes. Now I'm going to change this to smooth and draw out. In fact, I could draw over this original line, right? Check this out, Jason, you're too kind, but I'm going to draw over this original line while it's still selected. Oh, of course that wouldn't work, would it? Of course it should. Okay, double click. So that's I probably changed it in preferences. But just to compare the two lines, this is with smooth and this is with accurate. Accurate almost means like horrible. But that's what I'll often do is I just sit here. I'm literally using my mouse and I'm just drawing with the pencil, right? So this makes my life easy as I start drawing out these lines, okay? Super easy. Another tool I kind of want to point out, because we said, hey, you know what if there's a different way to draw shapes? And let's just say, for instance, I wanted to outline something here. Let's just take this and bear with me, crank this up, and change the color to something else. Show you this real fast. Okay, so I'm going to show you right here this curvature tool right up here. Curvature tool works different. So check this out. I want to outline this shape. I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to click again. I'm going to click on the most extreme parts of this line. I could click here, and I got to change this back to 1. Change the color to black. But look what it does. So that's 1 point, 2 point. What you're going to do with the curvature tool is you're clicking on most of the the highs and lows of the line, right? That's typically what you do. But see how it starts to broadcast that line? I'm going to click down here. And you think that line's static, but it actually does move depending on which way you put your next line. Okay, so that's the curvature tool. Clicking through here, kind of getting this right. Don't worry. This is what I was talking about. Clicking here. Oh, what's going to happen to the next line? Not to worry. We're just clicking on the hills and valleys of this. And I'm not doing a great job, but just kind of showing you kind of how it goes. Okay, so it's not perfect for outlining something, but I wanted to show you how you just kind of click on the hills and valleys of a potential line. Typically, this is just going to give you a smooth line. Curvature tool does exactly what you think it's going to do, right? It says boom, 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 makes everything smooth, and I don't have to worry about it. Look at how nice that is. Done and done. Okay, so let's bring this to the next level. This is Inktober. My name is Paul Trani, evangelist for Adobe, and we have a fun week planned with amazing illustrators. You can always check out the schedule tab, but that's what's happening. In fact, if I just switch over, you can see we have these fine individuals, Dave, Tracy, Aldo, on down the line for amazing illustrators joining us this week. I'm working on Inktober, and the goal is to make a scene around, or an illustration around, poisonous. P-O-I-S. Poisonous. Had to make sure I spelled that right. using the second most used tool in Illustrator, which is the type tool, right? Boom, boom, boom. I could do some fun things. The apex and the nadir, I've never heard of that word aside from being somebody's name, Jan Erik. So I'm totally curious. Is that what the apex and then the opposite is a nadir, the opposite of apex is what I'm wondering. Okay, so for type, and this is the most important thing that I could probably show you in Illustrator concerning panels, right? And I know it seems like a lot. I need to kind of move this down or over or out of the way. Let's move it over here. Let's minimize this and minimize this. Because guess what? I don't need most of these panels. I don't need most of them. All I really need is this properties panel, right? This is going to give me everything I need. So I don't need to worry about the character. Do you know there's a character panel? There is a character styles panel. There's a glyphs panel. There's all this stuff. I don't need to have all those panels open. I just select this text, say, hey, you know what, right over here in my properties panel, it's going to give me the options for that selection. Okay, so this is what I want to go with. You know, kind of using this Myriad Pro, boom, 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 boom. Judge me, people. Like, I know we got to like, what are you gonna, well, that's kind of interesting. I got to pick a font, right? Going on down the line. Oh, this is kind of fun, right? So we can have some fun fonts. What do you do in Illustrator? A lot of times you're duplicating fonts. I'm going through these. Oh, this is nice too, right? So I'm just grabbing different types, different fonts, typefaces, if you will. Comic Sans. Right, we want something, oh, that's kind of cool, maybe, kind of Wild West. It's even called Rosewood. But really what I want to do is I would typically take just a standard font and then I would modify it in Illustrator. So I'm not going to find anything that I want out of the box, right? I'm going to go even more traditional. Yeah, you may or may not like this. I am going to show you Acumen. Acumen variable concept. What is this? Acumen variable concept, right? So it's pretty much a standard, seems very standard type of sans serif. But if I check it out, it has a ton of different weights. But I'm going to go in here to the options for the character panel. Then I'm going to go to this little button. It's a variable font, so I can control the width, the height. The width, the slant, and the weight. So these are sliders I get for this font. So check this out. I'll take this, and I want it thicker because I actually do want it nice and thick like that. I can slide that slider over, and it's not making it bold. It's not a pseudo bold offending all these typists. It's actually filing through that font. And if I want the width less and give it a little bit of a slant, I can do that as well. I'm going to do, again, you guys, everybody's going to think I'm so boring. I'm going to do something like that. Okay. Make it all caps. Let's bring in the spacing like that. All right, check this out. So this is what I want to do now. So I'm going to have these cool vines, and I need to change these lines to vines so bad. Don't worry, this is going to get awesome really fast, but I want to show you this. I'm going to have these letters kind of like all over the place, right? So that's what I want to do, just kind of have them look like random. And in fact, I'm going to go right over here to my type tool, and I'm going to go down to the touch type tool. So Bo and Anissa, oh, good to see you here. Hello. Hello. Oh yeah, obsessive compulsive. Anissa, you're like, your fonts all over the place. Like, I have too many. I was downloading some last night and it was awesome because I was getting some 90s fonts. But this is what this touch type tool does. It lets me kind of stagger these out and make this look cool, because I want to have these cool vines around this word poisonous, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to have this S, guess what? I want to have this S rotated like that. Guess what? The kerning here, this is all one line still, right? So check this out. Type tool, look. Pop, 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 pop. I can control the leading still. Look at that. Boom, boom, easy. But now I can have fun with this text, loving the touch type tool, just to be able to manipulate this accordingly, kind of nudge that in. What else should we make any of these others kind of a little bit crooked? Maybe this one, like that. So again, love this touch type tool, giving me this variety that I want in this case for this text that I'm doing. Again, for Inktober, that looks pretty good. All right, cool. Okay, so that's good. Work with me, work with me. We have our heroine. I haven't really, so much to do. So much to do. I've been going for about 30 minutes. I'm going to go for about 25 more. Oh, you can 3D them in different angles to the vines. Oh, Paul. I love the idea of making these 3D. That's a great idea. Okay, so this is how I would do that, Paul. You ready for this? I'm going to go with Paul's suggestion because I think it's awesome. Good call. I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to go into Effect, into 3D, and I'm going to go to Extrude and Bevel. Boom. Right? From here, I'm going to turn on Preview, and you can see they're going to be angled. I'm going to make them thinner, maybe 20, like that. And notice how it's off-axis front. I can adjust this any way I want, like that. But we'll give it some depth like that, right? And I think that will look pretty good. Right. Let's go into more options. We could adjust the lighting, so I can make them like super white right there. You can see what's happening there, and you get the idea. Okay. I'm going to change the lighting to a green. Give it some nice green light, like that. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Hey, work with me. Maybe it's better as black. Changing my mind, change it back to black. All right, so click OK, done. Selecting this. So this is, I want them offset differently. So I'm going to go to Extrude and Bevel for this one and selecting Preview and then adjusting this in, remembering that this is 20, right? And making sure the lighting is right. Because I want these from two different angles, like that. Okay, done, done. I'm going to take this text, just to make this easier, I'm going to expand appearance, and I'm going to ungroup these. Now they're individual letters. This is going to be easier, and honestly, I could, yeah, totally work with this. Move this down, and now we can just kind of alternate the two. Boom, boom. Notice how this S is at a different angle. Keep that O, get rid of this N, bring in this N. You get the idea. This is what we're doing for this. It is Inktober, and we are changing this text. Theme is poisonous. And I'm showing you Illustrator, diving into a little bit of 3D. Don't mean to scare anyone, but this is what I want, something like this, poisonous. Okay, now from here, I actually want all of these vines to be like working their way inside and out of these letters, okay? But you're saying what vines? You just have lines there. You are correct. Give me 1 second. Simon Hilling, thank you so much. You are too kind. I'm going to turn on my heroine, actually. Let's actually switch this up. Ba-ba, ba-ba-ba. I'll talk about her later. Let's grab these lines, cutting them, and we will have, these are going to be called vines. Vines. V-I-N-E-S. How's everybody doing this fine Monday? Are you loving life? Just living the dream? Is everybody like living the dream, huh? Living the whatever that means? I don't even know. I will say I'm happy that you are here, everyone. There we go. We'll do something like that. Poisonous. Get those buildings behind her. Zoop. I don't know, something like that. Increase the size. All right, so here we have these lines they're going to wrap around these letters, but I'm going to get into brushes because these lines are not bad, right? In fact, this is our text. Just organizing my layers. You can see I'm doing it right over here. Some of these actually don't have anything, so that's an empty layer. So there's nothing there. Not a big deal. Throw that away. I can see that I have this text. If I twirl this down, you can see all those different letters right in there. So just kind of separating these out. I'm going to put the vines maybe on top of, but I'm going to kind of have some different layers in there. All right. So selecting these lines, I have the properties for the lines, a couple different places. I usually use my options bar at the top to increase maybe the stroke like that, increasing the stroke. And if we want to make them a little more fun, we can change them actually to green. Sure, why not? Let's make them a dark green. And then let's change the width profile. So right in here, change that width profile, bump. You can see now it thins out like that. Yeah, thank you so much. It could turn in a cool movie title. So that is the plan. Okay, so these look like tentacles right now. Okay, I gotta fix that for sure. But what's happening here is it's using these width profiles that I can actually change as well. Okay, so it's using these width profiles. I can change them to maybe this one. You know, there's a little bit more variance, but I want to introduce you to, right over here, the width tool. So I can select the width tool, come over here, and I can adjust the width. Say at this point, I can make this even thicker like that. Okay, and make sure it thins out down there. What about down here for this part? Let's make that a little thicker. What's happening here is it's like, hey, you know, it's getting really thin because there's another width profile right here. So I usually like to roll over the line and find if there's another width profile already there and then adjust that one. And it's going to be much more smooth in this case, right? But that's all I'm doing, adjusting the width profile. This is going to make anything look better, honestly. It's just going to make, yeah, it's going to make pretty much anything look better. For these ends, again, I can grab those. Maybe I want them to be thick on this end for her because they're coming out of her fingers. Are they coming out of her fingers or more of her full hand? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Some of my ideas are good, some of them not so much. But we'll kind of do something like that. Just kind of see what happens, see how that looks. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. So poisonous, shooting out of our hands. These are more like tentacles. They're not quite like vines, and that's what I want to do. So I want to turn these into vines instead. Okay, Matthias, I cannot see what you're saying. Nonetheless, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Okay, so I have this layer of vines, and I might want to keep these tentacles. We'll see, right? I'm just going to keep it as a backup. If you grab any layer and drop it onto the add new layer, you can duplicate it. So that's typically how I do it. Now we have this vines copy, but this is going to be vines with custom brushes. Right? That's what we're going to do right here. It's going to be awesome. Okay, opening up, what did we do? We started with sketches. We can see them over here. Zoop. This is Inktober. Hey, why not? Let's do this. Right in here, libraries panel. That's going to be ugly. I have this brush. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Oh, there it is. There it is, kind of creeping out. So that's the brush I made just from Adobe Capture because it was easy, right? Maybe not the greatest, but you could see it kind of grow, right? Sure, that's cool. I'm going to go beyond that because all that does is it changes the size and everything. Not quite what I want. I'm going to go beyond that, okay? And I'm going to make some fun brushes. In fact, I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to show you something sneaky. I happen to have all sorts of things. So many things. I have this Paul's profile. So I'm going to open up this. So what I've done is I've created my own like template starter page that has all of these brushes in it already and then has all of these colors in it already. So if I had that panel open, swatches. So because I found myself making gradients way too many times because gradients are all the rage, right? And I wanted all these brushes with me all the time. So that's why I made this template page, right? So this is going to be much better to use, right? In fact, I'm going to open that up just so you know where it started from. Give me 1 second. This is going to be hard to work out, but I have faith in myself. All right, so give me 1 second. I'm going to go to this. What you need. This is it. Perfect. Can you apply the gradient to the stroke? Yes, you can, and that is a great idea. Oh, you guys are such a good idea. Okay, so take that. Change the width profile, because that's what you do here. That's a great point. I'm going to take all of these lines right here, and rather than just having them as a straight up boring green, I can add this kind of gradient to it. Clicking, and I've added those gradients, okay? So that's pretty good, right? But I want it to be more like a pipe. It should be piping through. So I can go to my gradient panel right down here, and this is specific to strokes. Yeah, I could change it to linear and radial and all that stuff. But what I want to do is I want to change it right in here. Changing this, apply the gradient across the stroke. Excuse me. Clicking right there, and that's what I want, right? And sure enough, I can add new color stops and give this some more fancy depth like that, okay? Boom, boom. Good call. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Fantastic. So again, pretty awesome. But going beyond that, we can make our own brushes. So this is what I wanted to show you, right? So let's just take one of these, any one of these. This is a nice one. How did I do this? And where are my original assets? Not a big deal. But I've actually drawn these and colorized them, and I made all these brushes, quite frankly. But I'm going to go ahead and expand appearance. So work with me. I'm sorry, this is kind of, I'm looking for the original file, and I'm having a hard time finding it. That's all. There we go. This was the original asset right here, okay? So I've expanded appearance. Here's my original asset, right? I'm going to take this. We're going to bring it into our fancy design right over here. And for this, we will turn it into a brush. How do we do that? We could just click and drag this into the brushes panel, and then we'll get this pop-up. And what do we want to do? We want to make it a pattern brush. Clicking OK. It's pattern brush. Gives me all these different options. Already is making it a pattern. It gives me the ability to like pick the corners. So like it can make it auto-centered. So that's what's happening right there. And I can adjust accordingly. In fact, this is another thing I could do. Tints and shades. I'm going to change that to tints and shades. I'm going to show you what that means in a little bit. So yeah, that's what I would typically do. I can go back into these options later, because right now I'm just going to click OK. Okay. So here's the flat, boring vines. I'm like, okay, these look like tentacles. Let's select all of these and then go to my new brush, which is right down here, and add it. Click, and now we have, of course, all those fun little vines. Jan Eric, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. So that's what's happening, is that they're winding through. This is pretty cool. We'll work on some of the depth here in a second. I'm going to shift this, though. Check this out. Let's see what this should work. Boom. Check this out. I want to add a little bit of color. The reason I did, double-clicking on this to change this, the reason I did tints and shades is so I can change the color for all of these various vines. So clicking OK, even though they're from the same brush, I can select this one and I can tint it yellow like that. Now we have yellow, right? Taking this one, shifting it to more of a purple like that, right? So we have all these sort of variants thanks to that brush, okay? So that's typically what I'll do. I'm just going to change a couple of these. I'm just going to move these to the back because it's going to be easier. Cutting out some of those, putting them on a layer behind like that. And there we have it, like kind of going in and out. And sure enough, I'm going to use this direct selection tool to adjust it, maybe remove some points. All right, we'll have it kind of like that. I don't know, what do you think? Right here, ooh, this needs some overlapping, right? Honestly, since this is so random, it's fine. I can do a lot of things here, but I'm going to take this line, I'm going to duplicate it, I'm going to cut it, I'm going to put it on top. I'm going to remove points, boom, boom, oops, boom, boom, like that. So basically I'm splitting this line in two. This was a dumb way to do things. I'm so glad you're here, by the way, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. But this is what I want to do. For this one specific line, I want to cut it in half, right? And this is really old school Illustrator stuff. You have a number of tools to cut things. An eraser tool, scissors tool, and then knife. I'll typically use scissors, to be honest with you. But I kind of want to see what the eraser tool will do. So I select this eraser. I just want to chop this line in half, cut. Yep, that works. That's an easy way to do things. Let's try the knife, cut. That does the same thing too. Or what you do, and this is probably why I prefer the scissors, because you have to click right on the line. So it's a little bit more exact. I'm like, bam, click right there. And now I've split that right there and can move it into place. All right, because what do I want to do? Since I wanted to split that, I wanted to split that so I could put this one on top right up here. And I kind of screwed it up. That's okay. Minus. You get the idea. And then we'll just tweak it into place. Zoop. There we go. Cool. Poisonous. She's poisonous and... Oh, you probably... Sorry about that, Jan Eric. Probably need some... You notice some hissing. Curious about that. I'll have to listen to it later. It's probably coming from my laptop that's doing the streaming, which is kind of close to the microphone, is what I'm thinking. But my plan's to move it away, but I have to be able to reach it is the problem. But there you have it. We have our poisonous lady. In fact, we can add more vines. We can see more things right in here. In fact, let's just turn some of these on. Oh yeah, there's more. There's so many more. Like that. Yes, you get the idea. I'll work on her hair too. Her hair actually needs to be changed. So again, kind of winding down. I don't know where I got this, by the way. I have this little like lens flare. There actually are lens flares in Illustrator. I don't know if you're aware of them. Probably one of the least used tools. So right back here, you can see flare tool. So you want to add a little pizzazz, a little flare. Yeah, click. And then here's like the flare that gets added, right? So there's your cool burst, because that's what I wanted, say, you know, or right there. Who knows? But you get the idea. She's poisonous. Actually, watch out for her. Her name is Poison Ivy, updated character for Inktober. She does have red hair, technically. Can you still adjust the width with the pattern? Yeah, you can do a lot. So I'll just go back to this file. Again, because I think brushes are like fantastic. Since this is a little cleaner place for us to see things, you can do anything you want. So N for pencil. Here's a line, applying that brush to it. Let me go in here. Here's this brush. I can adjust the width. So this is treated just like any other line. So here, using the width tool, I can make it thin on one end and taper it down and have it wider right in here. And then I can adjust really pretty much anything. A lot of times you'll get the size wrong. So I'll double click on this. You might get the size of this object wrong. So right here, you can see I actually cranked it clear down to 11% because I made the initial brush really big. The graphics were huge, and I needed to scale this down. So notice when I crank it up, it's going to be much larger. Okay, again, just kind of scale that down. Hopefully that helps. But they are awesome. Brushes are awesome. Like, I typically will do a number of things with it as well. So like, we're going to make a poison bottle, like a bottle that says poison on it, right? We can go in here. Let's make a rounded rectangle, zoop, something like that. And then I can apply some of these simpler brushes, like this one, this one. This is kind of more maybe like a label, but just to give you an idea. Here's a stitch kind, right? So there's a stitch circle. So I love brushes because a lot of people would actually duplicate an item around this completely. And I'm like, no, that's a horrible idea. You could just turn it into a brush. You can adjust the width and everything. You have a lot of control. And then if you want to expand it, you can always expand it later. So I can expand the appearance right here, boom. And then I can add a color on the inside if I want to. But that's just another example, little stitch, and on down the line. I have all sorts of brushes, but you get the idea. Just applying. Some of them are better than others. Here's another thing I could do. You ready for this? One more thing. Typing this in. Poison. Wait for it. Kind of winding down to the past minute or two. Oh no, acumen. This is pretty much everything I covered in the past hour, but here's my text, poison. And let's create outlines. And let's change that to just a stroke. But now what I want to do is apply a brush to it. So right in here, clicking, taking this down, scaling this up. Wait for it, wait for it. Oh yeah. So that's just like another example of just cool way to do text, you know. Poison. It's a little too uniform. Not to worry, I could actually have, wait for it, let me ungroup it. Having too much fun here. Taking this I, maybe that's a different one. And this one is a different one as well. You get the idea. I'm just playing around now. This needs to be much better. I would definitely make it not as uniform by cutting out parts of it, right? And having a lot of hidden lines and stuff like that. But you get the idea. Okay, and even some variety for all of these, applying the width tool to it. Boom. All right. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, I created all these brushes. They're all in my starter file. And that was getting started in Adobe Illustrator. We made this cool little poisonous illustration for Inktober that you can check out. We have a full week planned. Amazing guests this week. And make sure you check them out. So join us live tomorrow. Same time, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll kick it off with some fine folks that we have coming in that I'm going to check on right now. So I'll kind of leave you with this schedule, and let me know if you have any questions. Favorite artists on Instagram for Inktober? That's a good question. I would just actually follow the hashtag Inktober and find your own favorites. I tend to follow like a lot of painters is what I do. So Andy Espinoza. Andy Espinoza is our last guest for the day. Tomorrow, just wanted to highlight him. And that's what's happening. So, boom, boom. My name is Paul Trani. I'm actually going to be live on the Illustrator Facebook page later today. So join me. I'm going to be covering pro Illustrator tips. So that's the plan. All these pro tips that you need to know is the idea. But hang out here. Make sure you follow and like and do all the fun things. We'll be sure to follow you and keep in touch with you. Keep this conversation going, if you will. So that would be awesome. So I'm going to let you go. And today's quote of the day: each day brings its own gifts. Untie the ribbons. Oh, how clever. I just pulled these at random. Today's a gift, everybody. I'm certainly thankful for you. Remember, go hug your mom. Tell a stranger their hair looks nice, like you guys always do for me. Thank you so much. And color matters as well. I'll have to cover that later. Plenty to talk about. I'm glad I'm not the only one streaming. We got plenty of other people streaming, so follow them and tune in tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just going to leave this schedule up for a second, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you.